You're listening to the Gate of Trust podcast. Join hosts Matt Trush and Felix Friedberg's heart-to-heart conversations with artists, entrepreneurs, scholars, and laymen who, by strengthening their trust in God despite all odds, experience outright miracles. Trusting in God can literally save lives. And now, Gate of Trust podcast hosts Matt and Felix.
Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm Felix.
And this is the Gate of Trust podcast.
Hey, Matt, there was an old lady on an airplane, and she asked the flight attendant for something to read. You know, some light reading. The flight attendant looks through her pile of magazines and hands the old lady a thin pamphlet titled Famous Jewish Sports Legends.
Not many of those, right?
Well, you know, Matt, today we're blessed to have Tamir Goodman on the Gate of Trust podcast.
Tamir was nicknamed the Jewish Jordan by Sports Illustrated in 1999. He's a former professional basketball player and current entrepreneur, coach, consultant, and motivational speaker.
Tamir made history as the first orthodox Division I and professional basketball player who refused to play on Shabbat.
Tamir is a living example of Bitachon TRUST, and we can all learn a lot from him and his example.
And now, a real Jewish sports legend, Tamir Goodman! Super excited to have you with us, Tamir.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I'm a little nervous too. I mean, I'm a bit of a fan, and I've been studying you and watching your videos. And I actually heard you on some podcasts several months ago. And so before we even started this podcast, I knew your story. So I'm super excited to have you here today. So welcome.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you for thinking of me.
Are you in the Holy Land or are you in the States?
Yeah, I'm in Jerusalem.
You're in Jerusalem. Beautiful. And you had a good Shavuos.
Yeah. Thank God. Thank God. Hashem knows exactly what we need.
Exactly. And exactly where to be. We're in the right place at the right time. So thank you so much for joining with us on our Gate of Trust podcast. I think obviously a lot of people know who you are, but just in case some people don't know who you are, I wanted to give a little introduction. And so forgive me if I miss anything, but please fill me in. I think I did a good research. So thank you for being with us, Tamir Goodman. You are famous for, in 1999, we're sitting with the young man who was named the Jewish Michael Jordan. You were ranked the 25th highest ranking high school basketball player, averaging just over 35 points per game. That recognition changed your life. You had a lot of attention back then. You also were a national MVP at the Capitol Classic All-Star Game, and well-known players like Shaquille O'Neal and LeBron James are also former MVPs of that classic. So you're up there with the superstars. You're a superstar, and you made history as the first D1 and professional basketball player without ever playing on Shabbat. Additionally, you're an author and entrepreneur. You've written a book about your life, The Jewish Jordan's Triple Threat, and you live in Jerusalem with your wife, Judy, and your 5 kids. You're an entrepreneur involved in professional sports businesses like Aviv Sports. I want to know more about that. You have many products, high-tech basketball net. You've got sports tzitzit, training equipment, and other products that I need to know more about. And we know you have many stories of trust and bitachon that you can share with us today. So welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much for thinking of me.
So one of the things that I want to start off with is it was very moving in your video. You talked about when you were 10 years old in your backyard, you're shooting hoops. Part of your thing was you had a practice of just shooting hoops. You played a lot of basketball and you looked at your hands and you said, I'm going to use these hands. And I'm going to play D1 basketball and I'm not going to play on Shabbos. Like how at 10 years old did you have this vision and this decision? I mean, 10-year-olds aren't thinking how they're going to change their life. So what was that about?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it starts with like a tremendous amount of love. You have to love the game. You have to love the game more than your friends love the game or more than most people assume the love for a sport is. I love basketball more than, it's hard to imagine how much I love that game. And then in addition to that, a lot of really incredible things were divinely ordained for me in my life. Number one, that my parents gave me full support and never made me feel like it wasn't possible. That's a huge thing. My parents made me feel like I could really do it. Number two, my extended family and community and friends and school were all perfect. I had the perfect coach. My Savta was a Holocaust survivor who lived with us most of the year. And that was very inspirational for us Jewishly. And also, as a young kid, I would take trips with my father of blessed memory to go see Lubavitch Rebbe. And I think one thing in specific was going to his Lag Bomer parade. And that was a very powerful Jewish experience for me of Jewish pride. So it wasn't really me. It's just, I love the game. I fell in love with the game, but I really was wrapped in the perfect scenario, I would say.
How old were you at that Lag BaOmer parade? What year was that when you went to the Rebbe's Lag BaOmer parade? And you said it had a positive effect on you or a moving effect on you. Tell me about that a little bit more.
I was probably 10. I was probably 10 years old. I think it was 1990 maybe, if that makes sense. So that was like, if it was 1990, I was born in 82, so I was 8 years old. Or maybe it was 91. It was 1990. How do I know it was 1990? Because in the picture, I'm walking in front of the Rebbe, I'm wearing a pair of 1990 Air Jordans. So I guess it was 1990. But just my father waking us up early in the morning and the excitement of going to New York for this grand parade and the signs and the energy, that was a very outstanding moment for me as Jewishly in my life. But that wasn't the only time that we went to the Rebbe. So that was just one time that I think made a really big impact on me as far as like outwardly being proud to be Jewish.
Well, as far as I know, I don't know if anybody knew that you had that connection to the Rebbe. You're a superstar. Here you are going back to your youth. When you were making those decisions about playing ball and keeping Shabbos, it's amazing that you had already had that connection at such an early age.
Yeah, well, look, I think nowadays people know a lot more about the mystical teachings of the Torah and Chassidut and things like that. But the bottom line is I grew up with it. I grew up going to Chabad, and my father was a big supporter and activist, Jewish activist and helped Chabad. And, on Friday nights, they would learn in between Mincha and Kabbalat Shabbat on Friday night. And that was, as a kid, it was long and you kind of just wanted to go home. And I didn't sit next to the rabbi. My father would go up and listen to the shir, and I would just hang out in the back and just put my head down and wait for it to be over. But I guess some of it, the messages, I just happened to be there, were penetrating my head, and they were saying, look, everybody's special. Everyone has their unique talent. Everyone has to bring godliness down to the world through their talents, and everything, it has a spark of holiness in it, and you have to bring Hashem into that. And so hearing these messages, but at the same time, while I'm falling in love with the game, it was never a contradiction. It was a clear path for me, and I'm so blessed that I had that at such a young age. Whereas if I would have grown up maybe in a different vibe, it may have not been. So like I said, everything fell in the right line for me perfectly at a young age for this to happen. I always look back and say, if I wouldn't have grown up in Baltimore the way that I had, this probably never would have happened.
Can I ask you another question about growing up, the Shabbos, Kabbalat Shabbat, etc.? I know you love the game, you love basketball, and you were sitting in the back of the shul like any kid might be doing at that time, but it was leaking in. Would you have a drive to want to play basketball on Shabbos, and would you practice basketball on Shabbos?
Yeah, well, so like as a kid, I always played on Shabbos. That was like my favorite day to play basketball. Once I would say I realized like, okay, this is for real. Like I'm going to be a college player and a pro player. That's like when I stopped. But at the same time, and even till today, I have my holiest moments on the basketball court. Or even as a kid, it sounds a little silly now, but as a kid, 1990, 1991, 92, I'd watch the Bulls playoffs. So I'd watch the first half, and then I'd go downstairs to the backyard and I daven and I say, Hashem, please let Michael Jordan play good in the second half. Or, there was always like the connection.
So God is the God of the whole world, including the basketball world.
Right. That's how I grew up. I grew up like that. And, in an increasing manner, we grow and we learn and we bounce back and we make mistakes and we refine ourselves and we grow. But this is how it all began for me.
Beautiful.
Beautiful story. And watching your coach talk about you in high school, I mean, it's just amazing, right? So you're playing at a super high level. And while you're doing that, it becomes discovered that you have a learning disability. He shares that at some points in the game, you didn't even know what the score was, but you were driving, you were winning, you had this vision on the court that nobody had. How did you get to that level?
Yeah, well, like I said, I grew up with Coach. He was the difference maker for me in my life. He started training me at age 7, and I still talk to him every day. Yesterday was his birthday. Hashem should bless him with good health and long years.
I mean, wow.
He noticed at a very young age that I can't really read and write or do basic math. And my parents were getting me tutors, and I had good tutors, and everything was great. But what started happening was he started saying, look, Tamir, just come over after school. Or I would start going to his house, and he would help me with my homework. And how would he help me with the homework? He would send me down to the basement, and he would say, just write. He would yell it down, just write as you would talk. I'd be frustrated, and I'd obviously be calling up to him and saying I'm struggling or whatever. And he said, he would yell down, just write as you talk, and I'll be down there soon, check, and I started writing, and I guess I felt safe at his house. You know, he could help me with my work, and I looked up to him so much, and I learned everything else from him. So now he's helping me with school, that was very helpful. Then we would watch film. We would watch so much film together, and he taught me how to watch film. And sometimes when we watched the film, he would stop and he would say things like, do you know how many people in the entire country? He's like, there might be like 5 people in all of America that could do what you just did right there. He's like, do you even realize what you just did? And I'd be like, no, I have no idea. You know, I'm just playing. And he would point out and say like, wow, you know, I started to realize, I guess, like what coaches are looking for, how to win the game, the inner part of basketball. You know, he has such a great basketball mind, and at such a young age, we'd study the film together. So I guess all of that together with the life skills that he gave me, I was in the perfect place. It's hard to imagine, but you know, when you're like 14 or 15 or 16 and you have someone who believes in you more than you could believe in yourself or more than you even know, and then on top of that, he teaches you how to be accountable and never settle, never let society dictate, you know, what you can or cannot accomplish, and build you up to make you so resilient. He made me so resilient and gave me such a work ethic and we just knew every day how many shots I was going to take, how many I made, how many I missed, like what I needed to work on, you know, how to bounce back from a bad game, how to play against the best, how to be prepared to play against the best, how to communicate, how to be a proud Jew. Like I learned everything from my coach. You know, it's almost like, I don't know if you ever heard of like Rabbi Akiva came back and his wife was outside and he had all these students and he looked at his students and he said, hey, everything we have is because of her. You know, that's kind of like the way I still feel in my life with my coach. So everything I have is he taught me.
Tamir, it sounds like, at least from what I've heard, that you're describing yourself, at least you're recognizing the fact that God has been blessing you from the beginning all the way through. And I think the way you tell your story, shows the Akaras Tov, shows the great appreciation you have for Hashem along the way. It also says that there are people maybe who don't have that same background, and if it only they had been given the same type of background, maybe they would do just as well or better. That's another way to look at it.
A huge thing.
And the third takeaway from that is that how can we give that perfect environment to our youth? How can we give them that feeling that they can do anything, that resilience, that belief in themselves more than they believe in themselves? Because really, it sounds like that's the ingredient that you're describing in your own life that it took to get you from being a great basketball player to being a superstar, was really having all that positivity telling you that you can do it even when you had no idea that you could.
Yeah. The first answer about the Akaras Tov, I grew up in that. Yeah, I could remember specifically one time there was an NBA player that was coming to watch me play in front of a really big game. He told me he was coming to watch. I saw him in the morning at shoot around. And then he came to the game that evening and I went to coach and I was like, hey, coach, you have any last minute pointers before the game? He said, well, you know, Rod Strickland said that he was coming to watch you play tonight. I said, yeah. He's like, well, he's sitting right there. I said, yeah. So he's like, before I tell you anything, go show Akaras Tov and tell him thank you for coming and then come back to me. So I grew up in that energy of Akaras Tov, and I went over to him and I shook him and said, thank you. It means so much that you came tonight. And then I went back to coach and he gave me the pointers. And I still remember what he said, don't take too many extra dribbles tonight. The second thing about the education is 100% true. You know, you watch these Rebbe videos and a lot of times people comment on someone who may not be religious, or why did you give somebody Shabbat candles who doesn't necessarily keep Shabbat, or why did you put tefillin on someone who's not religious? Like a lot of complaints people came to the Rebbe about, and a lot of times his answer was something along those lines of, how can we fault someone for their education, you know, or their lack thereof? Let's talk to them from their godly soul and their special place, and instead of what they're missing or what they missed out on. And I think that answers the third question too, because we have to talk to our kids from their godly soul, not from their negative side. And I'll give you an example that worked really well with me and one of my kids. One of my boys is a very talented player. Basketball means everything in the world to him. And he's also very dyslexic and dysgraphic. And he has a ton of challenges. And, you know, when I was younger, if you miss school, or you misbehave in school, you're not going to play. You're not going to go to practice that night, or you're not going to go to game. It's just, that's how it was back then.
The
right?
old school.
Old school.
Right. We all
It's still in the school. It's still in school today. They still have the same rules.
So he comes home. He had a bad day in school, or he misbehaved in school, or something happened in school, and he had a big game that night. So my initial thought was, there's no way he's playing tonight. You know, you're done. And I held myself back and I said, you know what? I'm just not going to mention anything. I'm going to let him go to the game tonight. He goes to the game. He hits the game-winning shot. He comes home, takes a shower. We have his favorite meal ready for him. He feels so good. feels like a champion. He eats, goes to sleep. The next morning, I'm walking into school here in Israel, and I look at him and I said, you know what? Guys that hit game-winning shots don't misbehave in school. And he looks at me and he goes, okay, Abba. And he understood it because I talked to him as if he was a champion instead of as if he was a failure. And that was a game changer for him. So I think it's really hard for us as parents, especially nowadays. It's so hard to raise kids. It's harder than ever now. They're involved in a million things. It's much harder to grow up now than it was for us. For me, it was just basketball. I had my ball and I was done. I didn't need anything else. It's much more complicated now. And as parents, we need that extra patience and extra sensitivity that no matter what's going on, we always talk to them from a place where they're wholesome place instead of a place where they may be struggling. And I think that was the message that the Rebbe was giving in answering the other question, but I think it's very relevant to our kids as well.
Wow. Fantastic. I didn't realize I was going to get such an answer that not only are you telling us how we should relate to others, but even better, how we need to relate to our kids. I think that's a real winning answer. Thank you.
And it makes us better. I mean, it makes me better. There's so many times where I just want to just give them some BS answer. Go do your homework, but it doesn't work anymore. We need to find our extra sensitivity and talk to them from that place. And it actually makes us better humans and better parents as well. And hopefully helps them. But I just don't see the old school stuff working anymore.
You're right. The Rebbe would always emphasize the positivity, the incentives. In our generation, it wasn't like that. You went to school, you did what you're told. You didn't get prizes for doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? But now there's so much built into chinuch that's really always focusing on the positive and getting them excited and taking them to the next level. And I think that's really what the world needs, because you can see the difference in how it affects children.
100%.
Tamir, in addition to sports, and I watch you on Instagram as well, you're going to various stores, you're doing a rollout of your products. How have you been able to transition your thoughts and beliefs into the business world? You're dealing with executives in sports companies, you're going around the country, you're on social media. Like, how do you manage all of that?
Well, I think my wife said it best. Last time I got hurt and I couldn't play anymore, I called her from the locker room. Even before I went to the hospital, my last injury, I knew I was done. And I said, I told her, Hashem doesn't want me to play anymore. I could feel it. Like, I'm done. And she said, you know what? Everything's the same. You're just going to be wearing a different uniform. And she was right. Everything that I'm involved in is the same energy, intent, and work ethic that I played with. So all my products, they all come from an energy of, okay, this is something that I believe Hashem wants me to do. I go all out with it. And that's where my energy comes from.
That's a beautiful lesson. We study and we talk to our guests about Shar Bitachon and Emunah and Bitachon, and everything in there talks about, really having the right intent. And it sounds like for you, it's just from the inside out. It's just how you are. It's just how you're made. It's just how you were raised. You obviously, it came from a young age, and you were blessed to have these great mentors, parents and teachers and everyone around you. What would you tell other entrepreneurs or other people that are trying to apply these principles to their own lives? Maybe they didn't have the same upbringing. How would they bring that into their lives today? How would they be able to maybe get into that type of vibe?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to view yourself as a mission. Like, if you see something in the world and Hashem's putting you there to fix it or to partner with Hashem, or if you have a unique talent, I don't think you could just wing this type of thing. And then another important thing is to understand like what you're great at. Sometimes you have to say, what could that person do that I couldn't do for myself? But then on the same side, understand the humility of understanding, okay, here's where I need help. Here's what I'm not good at. And, for me, that's why David and I work so well together, because it's like business development, all that stuff he's amazing at, creativity, basketball. So we just work out perfectly because like I understand where I need help. And it's okay. And you could try to learn and get better at, but it's okay to understand where you need to help, have humility, and at the same time have healthy confidence, and at the same time have resilience. I think you need a mix of all of that. And then like the Rambam says, it's all about balance. You have to know when you're supposed to be working, how you're supposed to be working, balancing it between your family and the Chagim, and Shavuos comes, it's a hard stop. It doesn't matter how many deals you're about to close or what's pending. It's a hard stop. And that's actually the best thing for us. So, we're lucky. We're lucky to have the calendar the way we have it. We're lucky to have halacha, which teaches us how to live our life to the best every day in every way. I think it's a mixture of all of those things. And I think one thing that's very important that I learned is that like, if you hit a crossroad or a challenge, Hashem's not trying to punish you or hurt you. Hashem is just realigning us to get to where we need to get to. And without that lesson or that growth, we wouldn't be able to reach our potential without it. I think it's very important to make that switch in our brain that Hashem's not some type of evil tyrant waiting for us to mess up so that he can knock us down. It's more like a coach that's trying to realign our shot for us so, we can shoot a higher percentage, basically.
Very nice. Hashem is our coach. He's in our corner and he wants the best for us. And no matter what comes, it's from Hashem. We should understand what our superpowers are, and we should leverage those with Hashem in mind.
Exactly.
Tamir, I also wanted to go to that point you brought up, that in chapter 3 of Bitachon, of the Gate of Trust, it mentions that each person is created physically, spiritually, emotionally in a way that God made them specifically in order to do what is their mission in this world. You said that you've done it with basketball, now you're doing it with sports, technology development. And what you said was that you need to know what you're good at and know what you're not good at. How is it that you advise somebody to find out that thing that they're the best at, to determine what is their mission in this world and then to go and do it?
Yeah, I do this social experiment on myself all the time. Just anyone could try it. You could either leave your house, say you need to go to the grocery store. Like, just try one time. Leave your house and go to the grocery store and don't have Hashem in your life. Don't think about Hashem. Just go to the store, get what you need, and come home. Or leave the house and go the way Hashem wants you to leave your house, which is your eyes are much more open. You see someone that needs tzedakah, give them tzedakah. You see someone that's stuck, start talking to them. You get to the store, you're nice to everybody there. Training your brain to open your eyes and act in the way that Hashem wants you to see the world. Then automatically, they say the greatest part of the mitzvah isn't the reward of the mitzvah, it is the mitzvah itself. When we're living in the mitzvah itself and our eyes and our thoughts and our action are one with Hashem the way that Hashem is expecting us, not even expecting, Hashem is guiding us, then we're going to see the whole world differently. We're going to see ourselves differently. We're going to see our opportunities much more. We're going to realize our blessings much more. We're going to see how we can impact our Daled Amos, our area, our community, our workspace, our family, whatever it is, because we're much more open. We're not closed. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, somebody asked me to meet with him yesterday. I know what his business is. I know, and it's not relevant. It has nothing to do with what I'm working on in my life. I have no reason to meet with this person. But Hashem, I don't think Hashem wants us to think like that. Hashem wants us to think someone wants to meet with us. Let's meet with him. I got it from my father. It doesn't matter what I envision. I know that there's no business here, but I went to meet with him and I listened to him and I gave him his heart. I gave him my heart and he told me everything. And I said, look, this isn't what not really relevant for me right now in my life, but I'm happy to help and I like what you're doing and I'm happy to help whatever it is. He says, thank you. Boom. And he changed the subject. And he starts talking about another person. He starts talking about this other person and he's explaining that this person is in tremendous depression right now because this happened to them, that happened to them, and this happened, but this is their skill set and this is what they can do. And they're just not doing it. And I said, oh my God, I can make 3 phone calls right now. I have all the contacts and the knowledge to help this person get out of the depression, restart their life, and just let me know what to do. And he connected us via email. And next thing you know, we're working together now to help this person. And if I wouldn't have gone to the meeting, it would never happen. The point is, if we close ourselves and we lock ourselves into the guidelines of this world and what we think, we're not going to see our potential as much. But if we open ourselves up and use the eyes that Hashem gave us to see the world the way Hashem is guiding us to see, we're going to have a lot more opportunities for ourselves and a lot more for other people around us. But we need to be a keli. We need to be a receptacle for these blessings, for these special glasses, for this energy. Otherwise, we're locking ourselves away from so much of the potential, in my opinion.
I think you just described the Gate of Trust book. That's incredible. You are a Bitachon master. It's really incredible. You said, listen, if I live in the world, if I'm locked up, I'm going to be so short-sighted. All of the opportunities will be closed to me. In fact, they won't even show up. If I open my eyes and start living with God and realize that He's running the show, then there's an opportunity at every moment to do something good, to help another. And everything else is going to be taken care of. That's fantastic.
Exactly.
Wow.
Really beautiful thoughts, Tamir. Just really well said and inspirational to me as well, just to hear how you talk about it. Like going, instead of looking at yourself and what can I have and what is it about me, like Hashem put me here and I'm a vessel and I'm going to help who I see. And if somebody asks to talk to me, then we'll see where that goes. So that's beautiful. In terms of outlook, obviously your outlook is bright and it's wide. What is one thing, as we share with our listeners, what is one thing that people can do to remind themselves of that? Because challenges do come, and then it's easy to go inward. It's easy to to change your view when things aren't so good, right? So how do you snap out? How do you snap out of being so inwardly focused when something negative happens?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things. Number one is to invest in relationships. Like, everyone should be blessed with the best spouse or partner. Have a mentor or a rabbi or someone that you could openly talk with and that loves you unconditionally. I think that's really important. In my opinion, Judaism is there. It's like putting you in a situation to succeed. It's just helping you. It's like a game plan. Like, to how do you win a game? Like, so there's like 3 times a day where I see like, okay, this is my chance to talk to Hashem. When I'm like stuck inside and I'm in a rut, by talking to Hashem 3 times a day, we're already connected to something that's like above the rut, that could carry us out of the rut. That like, when it's something bigger than our own ego, like I used to say, like when I messed up in basketball or I messed up in life, I couldn't get down on myself too much because there's a bigger mission here to accomplish. And if I keep putting myself down too much, I'm off the mission. I can't be down. Okay, I messed up. I got to pick myself up and get back on track because it's not about me. It's about something bigger than myself. And those 3 times a day, we remind ourselves that we're in touch with something that's bigger than our own ego, than ourself or our sadness. And I think like that's a great way to pick ourselves up. So like great relationships, great mentorship, and that. And then I think another thing that's like very important, at least for me, is a consistent schedule, healthy eating, healthy workout plan, healthy study time that you never break. And I think like the more we feel good about ourselves physically, emotionally, and spiritually, the better equipped we are to handle these situations and to also not be grumpy at other people. The better you feel about yourself, the more likely you are to inspire other people and not put them down. Because if you don't feel good about yourself, we're going to take it out on other people and the people around us. And we don't want to hurt people that we love. So I think having a consistent schedule and doing everything possible to take care of our mental and physical and emotional health is very, very important. Like my kids know, like when they see me working out, like just let me finish my workout. Without my workout, I just can't be the father or husband I'm supposed to be, because I also learn while I work out because I like listen. That's when I listen to the classes. And so everyone needs to know like their schedule and do what they can to put themselves in a situation to succeed.
Beautiful, Tamir. You've put yourself on Hashem's team and you run, it sounds like you run your life like Hashem is the coach and I'm the player and I have goals and missions just like on the court. It's the same example. We have an objective. We miss shots. We miss free throws sometimes. But if we get too down on ourselves, it's actually, Hashem made us. So why would we go against, Hashem made us? Why would we go against what Hashem made? And so stay positive and shoot your shots.
Exactly. Because and I use the example when I teach the kids at camp all the time. Because it happens. Like if you miss a shot, how many times does this happen in basketball? Where like somebody misses a shot, and then they put their head down, they pout, they're upset. But meanwhile, the other team got the rebound, they're dribbling up the court, and there's a turnover. And your teammate wants to pass you the ball, and you could have a wide open layup, but instead you still have your head down because you're moping about what happened on the previous possession. And now you're losing an opportunity to get a wide open layup, which will give you the momentum to fly right back into the game. So you got to pick yourself up as quickly as possible because you're just going to lose opportunities. You're going to lose wide open layups. And the kids understand that concept. And if you come to my camp, you'll see the kids pick themselves up quickly right away. They understand that lesson because we teach it through the language of basketball, but it's the same thing. Yes.
But that's a whole metaphor for life. That's a whole metaphor for life. Incredible. Right?
Yeah.
When your head is down, when you're sweating about what happened wrong yesterday or a moment ago, you're missing your chances. You're missing the opportunity. You're missing the layup. You got to snap back and be positive and be ready to go right away. Fantastic.
Yes.
If you're teaching that to kids, basketball, it's going to translate to the rest of their lives as well.
That's the goal.
That's great.
I'm waiting for 57-year-old basketball camp, Tamir. When is that? When is that? I think it's happening today. Tamir, everything you've said has been so great. Any other thoughts you would have to share?
Just thankful for the opportunity. If anybody wants to reach out to me, they can. If I could help with them. And Batzlacha on your amazing work. And thank you for thinking of me.
Tamir, how do they reach out to you? What's the best way to find you?
Yeah, Tamir at TamirGoodman.com is my email address or any social media. If I could help anyone, please feel free to reach out.
Fantastic. Do you have people writing to you for all kinds of things or specifically are you interested in talking to people about one direction or another?
Every single day Hashem blesses me with the opportunity to help people. Every single day I get emails and requests and every day it's something else. It's amazing. I try to do the best I can. How about this way? I've been blessed to meet a lot of people in my life. So a lot of times it's just someone is calling me with a problem, but I've been blessed to meet someone along the way that could, sometimes it's just making a phone call and it's pretty cool.
Amazing. And are you answering these emails on a daily basis?
Every single day, yeah. Every day. Sometimes I WhatsApp the voice message back because I don't write so well. But yes, I think today in specific has been a very busy day with that. And so far it's going well.
Tamir Goodman, thank you so much. Now I know why you're a superstar. It's not just on the court. You have really exceeded any expectation I have of almost a human. The kind of good things that you're doing for others. You're living a life of bitachon. You're living a life of goodness and kindness and really sharing all of the positivity that you were blessed with to others and inspiring them to do the same. I'd like to give you my own bracha for continued success in everything you're doing. In fact, I don't think there's anybody out there who could be such a positive influence on youth and on others. So I want to give you strength and blessings to continue to do what you're doing.
Everybody in their own way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tamir. Thank you so much. That's all the best. All the best.
Thank you.
Matt, what an incredible conversation.
What a guy. What a superstar. I had no idea about this guy.
From the beginning, in his DNA, taking shots, overcoming challenges, always with Hashem in mind. Really inspirational.
God gave him the talent of basketball, gave him a family that supports him 100%, gave him a coach who is Jewish and observant to make sure that he was doing everything right, to coach him along the way. He has the idea of the importance of davening 3 times a day, the importance of having a mashpia, the importance of having a godly mindset so that everything that happens in his life is seen through a lens about how can I use this as an opportunity to connect to God and how can I help others. The fact that he has an open email. I thought about the Lubavitcher Rebbe answering all those questions and saying that I'm open for anybody to write to me and let me know what I can do to help. That is just such a broad and open spirit, and there's no doubt that he will continue to be a super success.
For sure. Matt, we couldn't even get into the challenges he had between signing up for Maryland, one of the top colleges, but then they couldn't adhere to a schedule for him. Then he goes to another college, Towson College. He has a good year. Then that coach is fired. The next coach has an altercation with him. Then he doesn't know if he's going to play basketball at all. And then he continues to play basketball professionally in Israel. Again, he has injuries over time. And like he said, he just looked to Hashem and said, I'm just going to put on a different uniform. It's an inspiration to know that those challenges were there to not only teach him a lesson, but teach us all a lesson to keep our eye on the ball. And if you miss a shot, continue to play. You cannot focus on missing a shot. You take the next shot. You keep yourself open. You keep your faith in Hashem open, and you will find success. Beautiful, beautiful messages, and really just blessed to have him on our podcast today.
You know, Felix, last episode, we were both slacking on our daily Gate of Trust learning with our wives. Any good news to report?
Well, Sane and I did review a new vegetarian cookbook this week with the goal to live to 120. So we're combining our Gate of Trust and healthy diet to live longer lives together.
Felix, that sounds like a recipe for success.
Thank you for listening to the Gate of Trust podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a rating, and share the podcast with the people you love. To access today's show notes, ask Matt and Felix a question, or suggest a Gate of Trust story to be featured on the show, visit gateoftrust.org/podcast.
You think you got it under control, you're on a roll, living it up, living your dreams. But when it all goes bust at the seams, then you scream and cry to the one on high. He's been in front